Hi guys, this is Jacqui Cooper from Jacqui Cooper Travels, and today I have a friend from all across the world who happens to be in Serbia. Rhonda is an individual who has been traveling for years and has created a wonderful, magical lifestyle of exploring the world and traveling and following her dreams and passion. And she's both a photographer as well as a writer. Rhonda, thank you so much for being here today. How are you doing?
I'm very pink now. Thank you. I felt flushed, like just like go through my body like I was in high school. That was pretty fun. I'm doing great. How are you doing, Jackie?
I'm doing good. So I know that we were just talking a second ago about the photograph behind you. You said you had just taken it.
Yeah.
Where is it? Where is it from?
It's in Niš, Serbia. It's like the town runs along the side of a river, and there's a fortress on the side of the river in Serbia, which is Eastern Europe, former Yugoslavia.
And how long have you been there?
Right around a month and a half now.
Yeah. So what made you decide to kind of go into Serbia and not another country? I know you've traveled to a lot of different countries.
So a lot of it was based on COVID realities, right? We all understand that there's not many places to choose from now. And Serbia was a place that was appealing. My husband had been here before. We liked the Balkan area and they were open. And at the time they had a really low level of infection, and that was appealing. And so that's how we chose to come here. Mm-hmm.
So I know that you describe yourself as a global digital nomad enjoying financial and location independence. Can you explain?
Yeah, so it's a mouthful, right?
It is. It's
so
great
the global part, like you said, thank you. And it took me quite a while to self-identify that way. It just does sound like so much fun. But the global part, this is, I believe, my 37th country. So living around the world as opposed to traveling and visiting, it's a little different. And digital being that it's really been the internet, the connectivity, and all the amazing things that you can do with the smart device that's enabled this dream to come true in this way. Because not only do I use it for all the comforts and conveniences that you can even begin to imagine with traveling, it also gives me a lot of different ways to creatively be able to create income, create things to barter with other people using various programs, and stay connected with people and share, like sharing is what I love to do the most. Nomads followed herds, or they followed weather, or there's different kinds of nomadic cultures. And we're kind of the nomads that we just sort of follow our dreams and follow where things just sort of take us. We don't plan very far ahead typically.
So how long have you been following your passion of living in other countries and exploring different cultures?
So just to back up a little bit before that, when we let go of conventional life in Orlando, Florida, I'm a Florida girl that raised three adult kids in Orlando. That was October of 2013. And we spent the first 3 years living in a bus and going around America in a bus. And then in October 2016 was when we put on backpacks. Well, I put on a backpack and my husband put on a ukulele case, and we started exploring abroad. So we're now in our 4th year of exploring abroad. Mm-hmm.
So what countries have you visited, and what sort of memories do you have? I know we were talking yesterday and you have a lot of really wonderful stories. What comes to mind that you might want to share?
Well, I think that it's really hard for people to wrap their head around it when they hear how long we've been traveling, because especially for Americans, for us, a travel vacation is a week, 2 weeks, we plan for it for a long, long time typically. And that we've been on the go for so long is really hard for people to be able to imagine. And the assumption would be that you're wealthy, but that's not the case. We just have learned how to live on a small amount and make some trickle income. So when you ask about the memories that come to mind, it's also been many different creative ways to continue this journey by using, there's different platforms that your listeners and viewers may have heard of before. There's an organization called WOOF. Have you heard of WOOF?
I have.
It's organic farms around the world that accept volunteers to come and to learn culturally and techniques and all different kinds of things. One of the first really profound memories for me is in the south of France in the Maritime Alps, just incredibly beautiful area where we worked on an organic bee farm and the bees harvested lavender and I jarred honey, and it was just really storybook kind of an experience for me. And in those situations, what you basically do is you are giving of your time. And what do we have that's more precious, really, than our time, our time and our energy to put into something? So you lend your time to the project, and they in turn house and feed you typically. And there's kind of an arrangement about how many hours. And it's usually in the area of 20 to 25 hours per week in most of these arrangements. And we've also done this through an organization called Workaway. And we've taught English around the globe and have just done a bunch of different things like this in different countries. And those are probably the strongest memories are when I meet people that have unusual dreams and we have the opportunity to try to help them live their dreams. And that's really fun.
It is fun. And I love the fact that you're mentioning organizations that focus on giving back as well as connecting people, because those are the personal experiences that, we can always take away for memories, and then also new people that we're talking to and keeping connections with. Because
Absolutely.
like you said, when you travel a short term, you might be just going and seeing the sights, but you might not always be able to connect with the people. So when you're actually living in a location, you can actually, have longer conversations with people and really find out more about what their desires are, and feel some of the same commonalities that they, and concerns and interests that they have that we have. So I know,
Absolutely.
go ahead. I know you
I was
speak more
just
than,
thinking along the
go ahead.
we have a little bit of a hesitation, don't we? When we're new to traveling in places that are profoundly different from our culture, it's normal for us to make snap judgments when we compare somewhere different to our own culture. And it actually takes quite a bit of time and observation and experience to really feel another culture. And that's what I love about it. We have a saying, it was Ryan, my husband, coined the phrase of home sweet here, because we really try to kind of put down roots a little bit wherever we go and take the time to feel the culture and the people. And I love traveling and taking pictures of beautiful things and, bucket list checking and that kind of thing. But for me, it's the lifestyle of experiencing these different cultures. I feel like a National Geographic explorer sometimes. I love it.
Well, and that was a question that I was thinking about after our initial conversation. You are a photographer, and you are documenting, your journeys and many of the memories you have. Have you put this into a book, or have you thought about doing that?
So I've got a lot of data, and yes, I definitely put a lot of thought into books, and I've done a lot of writing along with my photography along the way. I post daily on social media and sometimes quite in-depth posts. But this when COVID started and we ended up in Portugal at the early days of COVID in March and needed to be still like everybody did, right? It really gave me a chance to like slow down and make myself get my first ebook completed. And it was quite tedious because I do everything from my phone. So I was typing this thing with my thumbs and editing, and it has a lot of photographs in it and it has a lot of stories in it. And it's the first in a series that I'm calling Tips and Tales from the Trail. Because part of it is I don't really want to make recommendations to other people on how they travel and what they do. I think these are very individual decisions, but I like to share the things that I've learned and how I've come to my opinions about it. And so this book focuses a lot on how lightweight my pack is and
Mhm.
what's in my pack and how I've come to decide on those things. And I go into great detail about that. And then it also has, like, while I would be writing about that, a story would come to mind, something that was a funny happening or whatever, an adventure. And then I'll let myself just kind of segue off and tell that story and include those pictures. And I even created some little video clips, and I include like hyperlinks in my ebook where people can go to other media sources and learn a little bit more about that particular tale. And I started selling that, like, I guess 4 or 5 months ago.
That's great. So for
Thank
those
you.
that are following my podcast, and also the YouTube side, there'll be contact information so you can learn how to access the ebook, and that way you can also support Rhonda's travels and learn more. I totally appreciate traveling light. I know when my daughter and I travel, we travel with, we've learned over time that it makes it really enjoyable to travel with a backpack and just a small carry-on. So that way we can be on the go. And it's let us kind of have a more flexible path when we've traveled, because we might book a hotel and when we land, or book a hotel when we leave, but then we can decide as we which city do we want to go to next, and that type of thing. And that's been a lot of fun. So I know that when we spoke the other day, you had mentioned that you've had some unusual experiences, even staying on beaches and staying in a cave. Um, can you share like those stories? Because I think that they're very special.
Well, I guess we've been in caves a couple of times. The most recently was in Sintra, Portugal. And Sintra, if people haven't heard of Sintra, Portugal, of all the places that we've been, and we've been to a lot, we ended up spending Sintra. It's quite popular as a day trip. So to have it all to yourself was like being in Disney World or something without all the people. It was just a fantastic place, beautiful castles and stuff. But my husband did a lot of day hiking around. There's these expansive gardens and forests nearby, and he had found this cave. He'd noticed when he was hiking, and one night, there's a lot of story to it, but it's more story than I'm going to get into. We found ourselves in a situation where we needed a place to stay that night. We had um, a disappointing situation where we were going to be staying, and it's raining. It's getting dark. We're on the train rolling into Lisbon when we realize we don't have any place to be. And I'll be doggone if I'm going to spend as much money as it would take to stay in a hotel that night, because we work really hard for our money and we pinch it really tight. And Ryan remembered this cave. So we decided to go on to Sintra and take the last train into Sintra that night. And we got a bite to eat and a beer, and then hooked it off into the woods. And I thought it was really funny as we were doing this, because it was pitch dark, and that I didn't feel any anxiety about this at all, because we've traveled so long and we spent so much time together, and he felt confident about where it was, and I'm really in love with nature, and there was really nothing that frightened me about the whole thing, and it was quite exciting. And so we spent the night in the cave that night, and we found it, and we came around the corner. He's like, I think it's around here. And I shined my little, phone light, and there it was, ta-da, and looked around. There wasn't any sign of critters in the dirt, and no footprints or anything, and no bat guana. I wasn't going to have a bunch of bats flying in my hair in the middle of the night or anything. And so we spent the night there, and it was really fun, and woke up the next morning in this beautiful, magical, mossy forest, and off we went. It all worked out.
That's beautiful. I mean, those are really precious memories. it makes the traveling so unique and the experience so unique. I know that, as a traveler, you've learned how to adapt and also how to adjust. I know that we're going to be having continuing conversations, but
Yeah.
any tip that you might want to share with our listeners, so if they decide that they would like to travel light, like you said, any initial tip that you might want to share with them so they can start thinking about how do they even start the process?
Well, I think one thing that can be really helpful to us in general in life is our inner dialogue, our inner conversation. And if the first words that kind of come to our mind is like, I can't do that, or I could never bear that, or I have to have this, or it has to be like this, then we come to believe that at some level. And if we can start to catch ourselves with that and to kind of re-evaluate what we think we need and how it has to go, we can become more and more flexible in our ability to enjoy things, because it's about enjoying. To me, it's about enjoying life. It's about living your life to the fullest. There's no guarantees for tomorrow, and I've lived very luxurious lifestyles in the past, and so I know the finer things. I've experienced the finer things, and so really I guess when I was a teenager, I was a camp counselor for many years, and you would have campers that would come to camp that would be like really very uncomfortable with a cabin in the woods and all of the things that go with that, and kind of helping them get past that. And it was so much fun to watch them be able to relax into it after a week of doing it. It's similar to that, if that's helpful.
Yeah.
And buy my book.
Yeah, of course. Exactly right. That's exactly right. We're definitely going to help you share the book because I know you have a lot of insights in it. I also want to mention to my listeners that you've had more than one career path, but your background was as a dental hygienist, and you've done a lot of different things, and you speak a number of languages, and you've learned the languages to be able to also communicate with those that you're living with and being around. And you mentioned a story to me. I think you were in Switzerland, and you were traveling right at, when you were, young. Can you share that? Because you've traveled a lot, but you started when you were younger, and that some of those experiences kind of helped you with where you are now.
Yeah, it's really true. I became a dental hygienist because it was a practical decision. My father really encouraged me to go into that. He was a biology professor, and it wasn't like it, had a lot of appeal to me. And I ended up enjoying it more than I thought that I would because I like people. But I had, while I was in dental hygiene school, I learned that there were other places around the world where you could use your dental hygiene license. And typically in the States, you can use it only where in your own state. So that intrigued me. And then when I was 22, I decided to look into it. And I found out that Switzerland was hiring, and it was so easy within, a couple of weeks of and this is pre-internet, right? A couple of phone calls and fill out a little form. And next thing I knew, I had job offers, and it just felt like something that I should do. So I took off and lived in Switzerland, which really surprised so many other people. And I was really surprised that they were so surprised, because to me it seemed like, wouldn't anybody, if you could do that, wouldn't you? And that was when I first started realizing that I was actually quite a bit more adventurous than a lot of the people around me. And it was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be. It was a lot harder than communicate with my patients, and I could very just basically communicate with my fellow workers at first. But it planted a deep seed, and it built a lot of confidence in me, and I had a fabulous time.
My love for travel started when I was younger as well, and right after law school. For those that might have been following my podcast, you might know. For those that are new, my background is that I am a lawyer, but I've also navigated into teaching, but I've always had a love for travel. And it's really started when right after law school, I decided to use the last of my loan money. And so I went overseas. I stayed in youth hostels. I did the Euro pass, and I was there for 2 months, and I kept extending my dollar and meeting people. And, it was magical. That just kind of made me realize that I like to have the freedom of traveling from one place to the other, not always having even though I love structure and I love tours, I like the fact that sometimes you can just go on your own and not know where you're going to be the next day. And I sort of have continued that passion of travel, all the way till now, and I'm sharing it with my daughter. So, now, I know we're going to have other conversations, so I just want to mention to everyone who's on the podcast that there is contact information in the block below, as well as, at the YouTube side, so you'll be able to reach Rhonda and have access to her ebook. I know that you've mentioned that you're a podcaster and you're a blogger, and is there any other information you'd like to share, even though we're going to be continuing on with different conversations?
Well, I think mostly I would like to put myself out there as open to connecting with people. I think a lot of people are Facebook users, and I use Facebook very faithfully as a way to tell people about the other things that I have going on. And my name is Rhonda Effron Brown. I'm really easy to find on Facebook, and I have about 1,500, available. Yeah, I still have plenty of room before I top out. So I just connected with a young man here in Serbia this morning. I have friends all around the world, and I love that. And I love for people to get engaged in global conversations. And I created yesterday on my shopping cart a special discount for your viewers and listeners, for anyone that uses a promo code that I created for you, for half off on my ebook,
Awesome. Thank you.
as a thank you for. Well, I really appreciate this opportunity, and I really hope to inspire others. When I was a dental hygienist, one of the things that helped me, I think, with my view of life was, it was very sad to me many times that I would have elderly patients who had not lived a dream that they had because they were putting it off for the future, and then their significant other passed, or they had a health event happen and they couldn't do it anymore, or whatever it was. So I really hope to inspire people to act on what feels to them like something that they want to do. And to let them see, I try to demonstrate that it doesn't have to be as expensive to travel as people think of it as being, and it doesn't have to go perfectly to be a great time. And that can be a big part of the fun, is
Very
the
true.
unexpected little, uh, blips along the way. So really, just to connect with people would be what I would love to see happen. And through that, they can see I've got like a lot of different little things that, people might want to participate in or be attracted to. So that would be
Yeah.
cool.
Now that I definitely agree with you. It's like you mentioned before, we're here, we're enjoying life, and we do need to kind of explore and sometimes be out of our comfort zone. And it's always fun to go new places and to meet new people. So and I find sometimes when I go out of the country, I will talk to someone next to me on a train that, while if I'm in the country, for some reason, I don't. And it's like, our mindset when we're traveling is a little bit more open, a little bit different. And so
That's true. Yeah.
so when I come back, I try to keep that same mindset, because we're all connected and we're
Hmm.
all neighbors.
Hmm.
So instead of putting up the barriers, it's nice to kind of be open-hearted to everyone.
Yeah, and I really try hard to represent. I go to some very remote places sometimes, we do, and they might not have ever met an American before. So if I'm the only American that they've ever met, I'm really representing. So that experience that they have and the words that come out of my mouth have tremendous impact. And they usually know a lot more about America than we know about their countries. Our media reaches all around the world. The television set right here in this room where I am, at least half of of these channels are showing American television here in Serbia in English, and American news. So it's hard for us to realize how much influence we have around the planet.
Yeah, no, it's very true. Well, I appreciate your being here today. I look
Thank
forward
you.
to our continuing conversations.
Nice.
Everyone, please check out the ebook and, let's continue connecting. Subscribe to my podcast, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and have a wonderful day. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Bye-bye.